Hello and welcome to another installment of our Women in STEM series. My name is Kaylee Peel and I'm the Manager of Strategic Partnerships for the Linda Hall Library. Today our guest is Fahteema Parrish of Parrish & Sons. Fahteema, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So before we dive into the conversation, I'd love to kind of hear a brief overview of your background in the STEM industry. What led you to being the founder and CEO of Parrish & Sons?
Once again, Fahteema Parrish, founder, president, owner of Parrish & Sons Construction. The industry for me started out really rare. I grew up in a small business home. My parents owned and operated a HVAC company. My dad, he was certified structural, electrical, mechanical engineer, and I watched him taking care of, heating, cooling, appliance repair for different people in our community, starting with our neighbors, with our churches, and then my mom, she took care of the accounting, and so she was managing the books, learning, the general ledger, the assets and the liabilities, and keeping things timely and prompt when we talked about, things from a payment standpoint. Mm-hmm. And so for me, seeing that as a young child, I grew up seeing them serve the community and seeing them provide a living for us, as a family. And so throughout my many years, I would go with him on calls and watch my mom managing the books. And so I naturally took a liking to the back end systems of computers. When you talk about the MS-DOS, the Linux, traversing, Windows, and, trying to figure out problems to, different software applications. And that kind of drew me into taking what is called a COBOL 1 and COBOL 2 programming language class my junior and senior high school. That was what what was offered to me at Joe Hunter Career Institute, and that was a pilot program offered by DST Systems. And so I was naturally, gravitating, back to computers, back to the back end, all while seeing my parents serve the community and go with them, as they're, progressing as a small business. But in high school, that was my natural gravitation. It was technology. It was how do I improve something using a software application. And so it was that very first program offered by DST Systems at Hurton Career Center that kind of drew me into the back end and technology and software development, which is what I went to school for. It was on an A+ mentor and tutoring scholarship that I got after graduating from Center High School. I transferred to Penn Valley Community College on that scholarship, and I then got my associates in computer science and information systems, still more technology, still more back ends. And that was what naturally, I held on to as from a technology standpoint, just something that was, the thing that I really wanted to stick with as a young person in my educational career.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's a really unique experience to be kind of immersed in your community from such a young age, and you've been able to kind of pay that back being still in the Kansas City community. That's a beautiful story. So looking back, aside from, being alongside your parents, were there other historical women or historical figures in general who really helped to inspire your journey?
Yes. So when I think about the inspiration from a STEM standpoint, it was, my mom, when you talk about, the mathematics component, she taught me to always do math with a pencil and not, a pen. I would often see people grab an ink pen and, try to do long math or, just different equations. And it's like my mom, she showed me that it was very important to be able to erase, because if you're doing long division, if you miss one of the steps, she wants to be able to show me where in that list of steps that, we went wrong, so that you can go back and easily erase. So I would say my mom, in addition to my mom, Miss Clary Strawn, she was my fourth grade math teacher, and just so happened she taught my mom too at Catherine B. Richardson Elementary School. And even more so after Miss Strawn's passing, I found out that we were we're sisters of the same sorority, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. So it was just really exciting to see these two women, leave this such a lasting impression, when it comes to the math component of life, because math is a universal language. So you think about, how to communicate around the world, ones and zeros.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me. And I think that that's, it's nice to see that you were surrounded at such a young age also by women. I think that's also a unique experience sometimes, right? Historically, we know that women are often overlooked in STEM spaces, and I think some of those things have been kind of brought forward into the present age. For you, as a young person, but also building a career now in Kansas City, what has your experience been like in STEM industry as a woman and as a woman of color?
Yes, it's been extremely challenging, and I had to learn from an early age to be able to embrace the challenge, to not be afraid to ask the question, to ask for clarity, to ask the question multiple times. And, when you don't know the answer and, you've asked it for the third time and it's not clear, don't be afraid to step out and do additional research. So for me, seeing my dad, own and operate this HVAC company, it inspired me to delve into entrepreneurship at an early age. When I was at Penn Valley, I transferred to Northwest Missouri State to pursue my undergraduate degree, which is a Bachelor of Science in Management Information Systems. Again, another male-dominated field and really uncommon. I was probably one of two African-American women in the MIS program. And so going into this rare space, the space where I was often, the minority, I had to continue to rise, to the occasion. And so seeing my dad serve, it allowed me to continue to serve on campus. I chartered, another chapter, or reactivated a chapter of my sorority during that time, because I saw other women on campus who were being away from school for the first time in their lives, being away from home in the first time in their lives. And so it was like we were out on this little island trying to figure out, how do I, cook for myself for the first time, or how do I do laundry, and how do I keep this schedule? And so starting this organization, connecting with other women, allowed me to continue to serve, but in the community of Maryville. And so I also started, doing hair, because when we were away from school, it was a challenge for us to learn how to, do normal hygiene functions that our moms or, local stylists had been doing. And so that was my way of, generating income for me to offset, my tuition or the needs that I had while away on campus. And so doing that, that was just one of many businesses that I had started. And so when you think about me being this serial entrepreneur, so it was cosmetology. And then after cosmetology, I was doing investment in rental properties that I still do to this day. And so after graduating with my master's from Webster, I learned that I still wanted to serve. I still wanted to be able to reach out to my community. And so I ended up reconnecting with, a childhood friend who so happens to be my husband to this day, and he was in construction. Also, like my dad was, but he was in the, earthwork portion of construction, and he was a member of the local union, and he was serving. And I was like, well, I've been, in IT for, it was 20 years at the time. And I feel like based on, my experience, I can manage anything. And so he would tell me different things that he was learning while being on the job sites, and how he would manage, it differently if he, was the boss. And so I was like, well, how about we, start to try to create something what's called a generational business, a legacy business. And we took on that challenge, and I was like, okay, I'll manage this. I can do this. And so I stepped out on faith, and I started retooling myself, learning about safety. And when you think about OSHA 10 and OSHA 30, and those are the things that you have to understand when you look into the general construction industry. You have to be safe. So I went out on this journey and learned about general construction safety. I took a OSHA 30 certification class, mastered that, obtained the certification. Then I started taking a whole slew of construction management classes hosted by general construction leaders such as Turner Construction, Clark Construction Group, and then J.E. Dunn Construction. And so I started retooling myself so that I could embrace this huge undertaking, so that while entering into another, arena, construction, that was, male dominated as well, I could learn what it would take to truly be the best.
I love that. So thank you so much. That gives me a better insight too as to your trajectory. I love that your career has been non-linear, because I think a lot of women, at least the women that we've talked to in this series specifically, a lot of that, it's very nonlinear for women, but it's the fact that you are being flexible, you were seeing different routes, you were not giving up. That's really impactful, and that's inspiring to the next generation of women. So that's amazing. I didn't know that that's how you met your husband. So thank you for sharing that. That's fabulous. And I think that your point about service and mentorship is very valuable. And that's something that we at the library are really trying to focus in on with our career exploration tools and the way in which we're helping young people too. We have a collection focus that really focuses on women and how they have contributed to science, women pioneers, that sort of thing. So aside from, the way that you and your husband are serving in the community, what are ways that you've been able to apply that through Parrish and Sons and through the interns that the internships you provide and that sort of thing?
And so for Parrish and Sons Construction, what started or drew me into the internships that we currently provide is upon graduating from the J. Dunn development program, I had our graduation was hosted at the Big Brother Big Sister headquarters down on Casey Branch down on Walnut, and so it was hosted there. And a part of us using their event space, they did a presentation and told us all about what they are doing in the community. And one of those things that they're doing in the community, which makes them so awesome, and why I support them to this day, is they offer internships. And so those internships allow interns to receive 20 hours per week of hands-on experience, and they were saying that they had partners in the community and gave us a list of how we could help. And so I raised my hand and I was like, hey, Chandra Clark, I'm interested. How can I help? Sign us up. And so that is what started the birth of our internship program. So I additionally purchased additional office space so that we could house the interns. And so we were transitioning into a rare time, which was the pandemic. So in addition to having the additional space, we had to talk about what it meant to be socially distant. And so I purchased additional space and started making job descriptions, and I wanted to bring the interns in and give them the experience of the full construction management life cycle. My first two interns were both mechanical engineering, and so when you think about construction earthwork, which is what we specialize in as a general contractor, it's civil engineering. And so I wanted to give them the full end-to-end experience of what it meant to go into the industry as a civil engineer. And we gave them the ability to participate in bid invitation preparations. So that's bid proposals and going to meet and greet different contractors so they could tell us about the bid and what it takes for us to prepare that proposal when reviewing a set of plans. And so we're downloading a huge set of drawings that show you everything about a site. And involved in those plans, we have what is called a geotechnical report. So that embraces the science. And so they're taking core samples of the earth that are going down, multiple feet. And so it's showing you, hey, this is the top layer, which is most commonly known as, the topsoil or the grass. And then you have another layer, which is, like a certain amount of clay, and that can be lean or a fat clay, and lean and fat ties into how much water it holds. And then if you keep going down to the different layers, you'll likely reach bedrock. And so that's the science piece that, we were giving them the exposure to, so they get to read a geotechnical report in addition to reviewing the, the civil plans. And then they get to look at the actual entire project and learn about putting together a schedule. How long would it take you to perform this full scope of activity? So if we are cutting this much earth from one side of the site and filling it in to this other side of the site, what does it mean to put the actual site on grade to balance out the site? So we went on, taught them about bid preparation, preparing the proposal, meeting and greeting with different clients, and working on an elevator pitch. So if they're in the elevator for that 30 seconds or however many seconds, they get to talk to them fluently about the company and what their role is in that company. And so just being a part of the entire construction management life cycle versus just filing papers. And so if we were awarded the project, they got to be a part of the notice of intent to contract. And so we're reading contracts, so that's legal. And then after the project is awarded, what does that look like? We are working with the payroll team to prepare and set the job up inside our accounting system. And then it comes, execution time. So we're talking about safety and how do you be safe on a job site. And so every single one of my interns get what is called OSHA 10, and that's something that'll stay with them for a lifetime. You get certified and you get to add that to your resume and know that you know what it takes to be safe on any construction job site. So just a small dose of, the construction management life cycle throughout their summer months.
That's huge. And I think experiential learning and real world experiences are what's pivotal and what really sets apart from standard education. So the fact that you're providing that, you're not only giving them real world experience, you're giving them on the job training, you're giving them like a purview and kind of a peek into what that career might look like, because we know that young people, they probably won't become XYZ and when it comes to a career if they don't know anyone in that career. So you've already been able to peel back that layer, which is great. And you are also giving visibility to your company. So you're doing so many things at once. And I'm so glad that you're here in the community as a champion for young people, because we need more people like you. We have a program called How Do I Become? And it's a series that's monthly, and it really helps kind of peel back the layer a little bit as to what kind of jobs are offered in STEM industry. And construction is one of those topics. And separate, engineering and what types of engineers you can be. Providing more opportunities for young people to make different choices for their career, I think, is really valuable. So it's awesome that you're doing that. So with the internships that you have, this is my last question, what kind of advice do you give them whenever you're having kind of these debriefs after a day on the job, on a site? What are kind of the things that you tell them whenever they are asking about what they should pursue and how they should pursue it?
So I think it goes back to, the question that I give them after they ask the question to me is really embrace the challenge. If you don't understand it, if it doesn't make sense, don't be afraid to ask the question. And asking that question multiple times if it doesn't make sense the first two times, embracing it. Rome wasn't built in a night, neither was Africa. So how do we, get there? So we are eating this elephant, we're chopping it up, we're doing what we have to do to remain agile when things don't make sense. And so when we go back to COVID and, unprecedented times, how, do we survive? How would we have, survived? Or how, could we continue to flourish in such an unfortunate time? And so it just means that we were remaining agile. We were embracing, what it meant to be fluid as, the changes rolled out. We asked the questions, we obtained clarity, and we were able to still, make it out. So I just say, don't be afraid to embrace the challenge, ask the question.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Fahteema, for the time. Thanks for being an advocate in the Kansas City community.
Thank you for having me. It's amazing what you're doing here.
Well, thank you.